Itachi video. Itachi video. Itachi video. A video about Itachi. We're here. How you doing? Actually, fun fact, did you know you actually already watched this video like 6 months ago? I mean, I know I've been getting comments and comments about it, like, when's the Itachi video? Matt, when is the Itachi video? I already put it out last February. It's just the Genjutsu took effect, so you did not know that you watched it. But here it is again. Okay. So, yes, continuing the Akatsuki series. I know the next one was supposed to be Orochimaru, but then the other day I decided, screw that, let's just talk about the person everybody wants to talk about. Because if I'm going to do an Akatsuki series and I don't do Itachi, I mean, like, you can forget about Orochimaru. Yes, he was technically part of the Akatsuki, but not really. Like, you never really see him as part of the Akatsuki except in, like, flashbacks and stuff, you know? And, like, fillers in the anime or whatever. But, you know, Itachi is, like, one of the first members that show up. He's, like, the most important member of the Akatsuki, honestly. And to some people, probably way more important than Pain or Madara, Obito, doesn't matter. It's Itachi all the way, alright? So, yeah, that's Itachi Uchiha's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm glad I finally got that one done. What, you already watched it? Genjutsu! Do you not know how Tsukuyomi works? Do you see all of the Sharingans that are surrounding you right now? I'll give you time. You can count how many there are. Okay, you got the correct number? No, you don't, because there's even more! Alright. Let's just do it. Okay. So, Itachi Uchiha. Who out there considers Itachi to be their favorite character? I'm not gonna raise my hand because, like... Okay, alright, I'll raise my hand. Itachi's pretty cool, right? When I was a teenager, and I was watching Naruto, like the first run-through of Naruto, English dub on Toonami, back when Toonami was on at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon after you get home from school. When Itachi first showed up, all of my friends that also watched Naruto, which actually was a fair number back when I was in middle school, I actually was surprised at how many friends that I had that were fans of Naruto and anime and all that stuff. But when Itachi showed up, man, they were like, whoa, this is like the coolest character ever. Like, you don't understand how cool he is. I mean, look at him. He's wearing a cool outfit and he has a Sharingan, but it's like a super mega uber Sharingan. It's way cooler than Sasuke's Sharingan, even cooler than Kakashi's Sharingan. Hell, he kicked the crap out of Kakashi in his first appearance. He can do this cool genjutsu that puts you in a world and he can like torture you for 3 days, but it's actually only like 2 seconds. He's so cool, right? He knows all these jutsu and he's really stoic and he's really cool. And like, did I mention he was cool? So that was like the impression initially when I was a teenager watching Naruto. Like, everybody just loved Itachi. And, you know, him and Shishomaru from Inuyasha. Inuyasha was on, like, Adult Swim, so, like, later at night, so I didn't have as many friends that watched Inuyasha, and even I wasn't into it back in the day. But when Shishomaru showed up, like, oh my god, Shishomaru, he's so cool. Did I mention he's cool? You know, so I guess it's, like, the older brother of a main character. That's, like, the archetype that people just go crazy over, right? So we have Sasuke, who's a main character in Naruto, and he's already like a child prodigy. He's really strong. He's really emo. He's like, I plan on killing a certain someone when I get older. And it's like, whoa. But then you meet his older brother, and he's like, whoa, he's even more emo, even more cool, alright? So, that's first impressions of Itachi. I loved him just like everybody else did, because I'm like, wow, this character's awesome, alright? Plus, eventually, he fights against Jiraiya, he uses the Amaterasu, and it's like this black fire. I'm like, oh man, how much more emo can you get? But it works, okay? So, we don't really get to see Itachi much after that in part 1 of Naruto. In fact, I don't think we get to see him at all until the very, very end, at least in the canon of the manga, after Sasuke and Naruto have their battle at the Valley of the End, and Sasuke defects to Orochimaru. We see the scene where all the Akatsuki are sort of gathered together for the first time in a long time as like holograms, and that's like the first time we see Pain there and everything, and he's like, you know, it's been a while since we've all gathered, but let's begin the mission to gather all of the tailed beasts and, you know, the 9-tailed fox and everything there, right? But yeah, you know, Kishimoto, he definitely knew what he was doing there. He was like, all right, I'm going to have another part of this series that's going to get way more intense than part 1. You know, Naruto is definitely a story where it's like Part 1 and Part 2 are very, very different. Part 1 is sort of like, all right, you're learning about the way that ninjas fight, and it's like a very tactical kind of manga. And then Part 2 is definitely much more about like crazy over-the-top jutsus and like, you know, the tailed beasts, you know, the Jinchuriki, they got crazy powers. And we eventually end with a world war that culminates in an alien goddess coming back and like different dimension shifting and like mountain planet busting attacks, and it's like controlling the moon. It's like summoning a giant creature from a nether realm and everything like that. So Part 1, Part 2, very, very different in terms of storyline and tone and everything. But the way Kishimoto did it was kind of brilliant, because he's like, I'm introducing Itachi and Kasame sort of halfway through Part 1, so you can really understand, like, how much more there is to learn about ninjutsu. You know, like, you know, Sasuke has access to the Sharingan, but Itachi has this even more advanced version called the Mangekyo Sharingan. And there's the Amaterasu, and there's this genjutsu called Tsukuyomi. Like, there's so much more stuff out there that exists. We're not really going to get into it right now, but then in Part 2 really dives into all that kind of stuff. Okay, and you know, it took forever for Shippuden to come out in English dub. I remember that, and my internet connection wasn't that great back then, so even watching the subs online was very difficult. So the manga actually caught up well beyond the English dub. So I was reading the manga of Shippuden while the anime was still like in Part 1, like all that anime, like those 80 episodes of filler that they did like in between Sasuke and Naruto's fight and when he actually finally leaves with Jiraiya to train. So the anime's busy doing all that crap, and I'm like, oh, whatever, I'm over here reading the Shippuden manga, right? And so that's kind of where I first, you know, read the final battle between Itachi and Sasuke, and really where all that culminated. I remember going to Barnes & Noble with my dad that day as soon as it was released, you know, volume 43, and I go into the bookstore and I see it there, like volume 43 of Naruto. I remember it was like a big, you know, chunky kind of volume. It was bigger than the other volumes. I grab it and I go to buy it at the counter, and I remember the clerk, and the clerk didn't know nothing about Naruto or an anime or anything, but the clerk was like, you know, there's a lot of people coming in and buying this volume. Is there like something important about this or whatever? Because people have been coming in all day and buying it. And I'm like, well, you know, these two characters on the cover, you know, they're brothers, and it's been like established that they hate each other. I'm like, oh, when did that come out? I was in high school at that point, so I was probably like 16 years old. I was like, these two brothers like hate each other, and everybody really wants to see them fight, and now 43 volumes into the story, they're finally fighting. And the clerk's like, oh, okay, well, $10, please leave the store now. So yeah, I remember buying that and reading the final battle there between them. I know there was a moment earlier in Part 2 when he shows up as sort of the clone when they were en route to the village hidden in the sand. There was like those two clones of Kasame and Itachi that showed up, but for the most of the bulk of Part 2, we see Itachi every now and then, but you can definitely tell Kishi was trying to focus on the other Akatsuki members like Deidara, Sasori, you know, Hidan, Kakazu. And it's like, we'll get to Itachi, guys. We'll get to him. It's like, I want to focus on these other members as well. So we get to Itachi and Sasuke's battle, and it's like, okay, Itachi is the man that killed all of the Uchiha clan because he's such a bloodthirsty guy, right? One day he just snapped and went crazy and slaughtered everybody in his clan, and he only left Sasuke alive to toy with him, you know? He killed his parents right in front of Sasuke, and then he used the genjutsu Tsukuyomi, so like replay that on a constant loop for Sasuke for like 7 hours. Man, Itachi is such a horrible person. It's gonna be so cathartic when Sasuke, who's abandoned his village and trained with Orochimaru and then killed Orochimaru, you know, he's done all these horrible things. Now his revenge has finally culminated. This is the final battle where he fights against Itachi, and it's gonna be insane, and he's finally gonna avenge his clan, alright? So it happens, and not to belabor the point, I'm not going to go through like a play-by-play of the fight, and you might be thinking, wow, we're not even that far into this video already, and I'm already getting to the final battle involving Itachi and Sasuke, because the point of this is, and I think that's what Kishimoto is really going for here, like, that final battle is just the prelude. It begins Itachi's story as, like, you might as well call that damn battle the prologue to Itachi's, the rest of his character. Because we find out pretty much everything else about Itachi. First off, we find out everything we learned about him initially was mostly false, or like subterfuge for something else, or a cover for something else. Some stuff is true, like he's cool. Don't worry, guys, he's still cool. But after the battle, after Sasuke finally kills Itachi, because even that's kind of subjective because he had that illness or whatever. Hold on, we'll get to it. But after Itachi is dead, at the hands of Sasuke, that's when he learns about his true past, and then Sasuke has to kind of, come to terms with what he's doing and what's his real purpose, and then he arrives at the conclusion that he arrives at, and that puts him on the path for the rest of the story, and then eventually Itachi, his story is brought up multiple times by Sasuke up until that point, and then the final arc happens where, Kabuto uses the Edo Tensei, and then Itachi is revived, and then breaks free of the control, and then gets to meet Sasuke again to fight against Kabuto. And it's like all this stuff happens. There's novels, there's extra stuff in the anime, there's data book information, like there's so much stuff about this character. You could literally just take Itachi, make him a main character, and you could have had a side story all about him. All right, because there is certainly enough stuff here, and it kind of like the cracks of this facade begin during Sasuke and Itachi's battle. Some highlights from that I just wanted to bring up. Of course, we have the Susanoo first revealed there. Once again, that's Kishimoto being like, hey, yeah, Itachi's gonna die here. Don't worry, he'll come back later. But he's dying here. I just want to reveal this also really, like, it's almost like Itachi served as, like, this is the tutorial for all the badass things you can do with the Mangekyo Sharingan. You can make black fire, the Amaterasu, it burns hotter than the sun. You can make the Tsukuyomi, the Genjutsu, the ultimate Genjutsu to trap people in. And also the third thing you can do is summon a giant avatar made out of chakra that is like the strongest embodiment of the Mangekyo. It's like a warrior that fights for you. It's like made out of chakra. It's super strong. It can fire arrows. You can do all this crazy stuff with it, right? So it's like almost like Kishimoto's like, okay, Itachi's going to serve to explore all that stuff that Sasuke is going to awaken later. And also other characters that have the Sharingan, like later Madara comes back. We have Obito, of course, characters like Danzo that have a bunch of, the artificial ones. Well, not artificial. They're real Sharingans, but artificially planted in his body. Kakashi's Sharingan for later. It's almost like Itachi served to show all the cool stuff you can do with that, right? But the scene with the Susanoo is cool. This isn't really related to Itachi's ability, but I'm just going to mention it now. My favorite technique that Sasuke has ever pulled out was the Kirin technique. The technique that he only really uses, I think, once in the manga. He probably uses it again in the anime and stuff, but in the manga, I think he only uses it once. Kirin, where he literally channels the power of actual electricity to summon like a giant lightning dragon to like shock Itachi, and Itachi uses the Susanoo to guard against it. But man, wasn't that such a cool move? It was so badass, and like I said, there's probably many more times it gets used in the anime, and you could play video games where you could probably use it all the time, but like, man, in the manga, that was such a cool technique that he only used once, and that was it, but it worked. It was very effective. The way Itachi died, like near the end of the fight, it was established, and like Zetsu's kind of doing commentary in the background. It's just like, oh, Itachi seems to be moving rather sluggish. He seems to be like, taking attacks that he could have easily dodged otherwise. I wonder if he has some sort of illness. And so you know what? I think, I did a little bit of research. I couldn't go through everything. I couldn't read all the light novels or see every little detail, but was it ever explained what the illness was? Or was it just generic anime illness where you cough up blood and it's like, well, this character would be like super badass, but they got an illness, so they're only like, 70% badass, but that's still enough, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of illness. All right, he got that kind of illness. All right. So, I don't know. It was probably explained at some point in the mountains of supplemental material on the disease that Itachi has, or where he got it from, or whatever, and what caused it, intense pain and stuff. There might even be a line somewhere that he was only at half power because of that illness. Like, whoa, he was able to do all that at half power? Itachi's so cool! Right? Okay. So, Itachi dies, and he does the thing on the, the forehead, like, sorry, Sasuke, I guess there's not gonna be a next time. I'm gonna come back as a zombie in a couple dozen chapters, but, later. And then he passes out. A couple hundred chapters, I guess. He comes back at the very end. So, then Obito, or Madara, picks up Sasuke, brings him back to his secret dungeon where he's amassed all the Sharingan and everything. And this is where we find out, he's like, okay, so, turns out Itachi wasn't really a bad guy. Yeah, he did slaughter his entire clan, but he didn't want to. And Sasuke's like coming to grips with this because this is literally like seriously, ever since Sasuke was like, how old was he when Itachi killed everybody? He was like 7 or 8 years old when that happened. It wasn't, he was a very young kid. All that stuff happens, and he's like, ever since that day, he's like, revenge, revenge, revenge. And Obito's like, actually, and I was like, what? Is like, but he slaughtered my whole clan. And he's like, yeah, but there's a little bit more to it than that. There's like political intrigue. Your brother was actually a very kind individual. He was probably the most gentle Uchiha that ever existed. And Sasuke's like, what the hell are you talking about? What? No! He's an evil monster that slaughtered my entire family. I saw him kill my parents. Yes, but he did it out of love. It's like, what? So, let's go into a little bit of everybody's favorite discussion, politics. Da-da-da-da-da-da. All right, Naruto politics, to be specific. All right, so Nine-Tailed Fox attacks the village way back at the time Naruto and Sasuke are both born. Itachi's like 6 at this point. By the way, Itachi is actually not as old as I thought he was. I mean, you know, fans of the series know how old Itachi was when he died, but like, if you don't know, or if you're just not a super big fan of Naruto, or if you just haven't looked it up on the wiki, how old was Itachi when he died? Like, when he fought against Sasuke there and he died there. Yeah, he was 21. For some reason, I thought he was way older. I thought he was like in his 30s or something. I don't know. That's just me. But anyway, yeah. So Itachi was like 6 years old when the Nine-Tailed Fox attacked the village. Of course, it wasn't just happen chance. It was obviously Obito disguised as Madara using the Sharingan to manipulate Kurama to attack the village and everything. Okay, so Minato has to do the whole sealing thing, Reaper Death Seal, rip out half of the chakra seal inside him, seal the other half in Naruto, all that stuff. A lot of people died. A lot of people died in the village, and the village higher-ups, like Hiruzen and all the elders and Danzo and everything, they suspected that the Uchiha had something to do with it. Because it's like, the Nine-Tailed Fox doesn't just show up out of nowhere and attack, you know, villages. You know, that never happens, okay? So, what is a clan that has some kind of eye jutsu that might be capable of actually manipulating the QB? And so they arrive at the Uchiha, obviously. And they were correct on that. Like, it was an Uchiha that did it. It's just the Uchiha that lived in the village had nothing to do with it, right? Like Itachi and Fugaku, who was Itachi and Sasuke's father, you know, they had nothing to do with it. But they were correct in thinking it was an Uchiha. So, relations with the Uchiha and the village were always kind of sour, especially since the Uchiha obviously descended from Madara, and that goes back to Madara and Hashirama and everything. But now it's like a whole new level of like tension between the two clans. Not even the two clans, but just like the village elders, like the higher-ups, and the Uchiha clan itself, okay? Because the village is kind of like, the Uchiha clan could have used the Sharingan to manipulate the Nine-Tails. This is weird. So, when rebuilding the village, Danzo, he's like, alright, so the Uchiha clan, we're actually gonna move you all the way over to this side of the village, like pretty much out in the middle of nowhere on like the perimeter of the village itself, which just also coincidentally happens to be surrounded by a bunch of buildings that we can use to monitor. I mean, the scenic views are amazing here, the Uchiha clan. Come and check it out, right? So Fugaku, who was the leader of the clan, and he was also the head of the Uchiha Special Police Force, which was the police force that, you know, patrolled Konoha and everything. He knew right away. It's like, all right, I know what they're doing here. They're moving us because they suspect us. They're keeping an eye on us constantly, and they're basically trying to take as much power away from us as possible, all right? So a bunch of the Uchiha clan is upset over this, and they're like, this is bullshit, what they're doing to us. You can tell what they're doing to us, right, Fugaku? And Fugaku's like, yeah, I know that, but there's really nothing I can do right now. So he kind of goes along with it for a little while, and all the while, you know, Sasuke has just been born, so he's a baby. Itachi's like, you know, father, teach me all these jutsus. And so Fugaku's like, all right, here's the fireball jutsu. If you can't get it the first time, it's fine. Itachi, of course, is a prodigy, so he creates a giant fireball. Itachi, man, he graduated the academy at age 7. He got the Sharingan at age 8. He was a Chunin at age 10. You know, the Mangyaku shortly after that. He was the leader of Anbu at age 12, you know, so all this crap. He slaughtered the entire village. Not the entire village. He slaughtered the entire Uchiha clan in the village when he was only, like, 13 years old. So, yeah, he was very, you know, much a child prodigy in that regard, you know, of all the jutsus and skills that he had, okay? So, Fugaku starts, like, setting up the ideas of a coup d'etat. He's like, all right, this is eventually going to hit a boiling point. The Uchiha are going to have to wage a coup against the elders of Konoha and basically try to take control of the village. Okay, so Fugaku begins to plan this, and at the same time, Itachi, at age 12, joins the Anbu Black Ops. Okay, but when he joins the Anbu, Fugaku is like, oh, cool, we have my son on the inside of the village and everything that's going on. So he's like, report back to me. And likewise, you have the village elders led by, well, not led by Danzo, but Danzo is on the board. He's the head of the foundation, root, and the Anbu and everything. So Danzo is like, oh, well, Itachi, tell us what's going on with the Uchiha clan. So it's a situation where Itachi, because he's so skilled at ninjutsu and taijutsu and genjutsu, and he has the Sharingan and all these cool things that he can do and everything, he's being pulled from one direction to another, and he's basically being used as a pawn from both ends, okay? And so the crazy thing is, Itachi's personality, like I said, he's very kind. He's a very gentle human being. He got to witness firsthand when he was a young boy the absolute devastation that the Third Great Ninja War wrought. He was only like 4 or 5 when that happened, but he saw the horrible bloodshed there, and he's like, I never want the world to enter a state like that again. I will do whatever I can in my power as a ninja to make sure that we never have a world war like that, okay? And so that's what he was aiming for, and because he was so skilled, basically both parties are using him. So Danzo essentially gives him an ultimatum. All right, right at the, pretty much on the eve of this, right before Fugaku was about to launch the coup, Danzo kind of knows what's going on here, and he sort of, tells Itachi, who's an Anbu, he's like, listen, you can either join your clan and fight alongside them, your father and all your brethren and everything like that, and if you do that, you will fight, and you might win. The Uchiha clan are very powerful. You might succeed in taking over. The coup d'etat might succeed, and you might take over the village. However, there's a chance that you probably will get slaughtered by all of the Anbu and everybody else. But even if you succeed, that's going to cause major global turmoil. The Leaf Village splitting and having a civil war, essentially. That's going to cause all these other villages to take advantage of the Leaf Village, and that could very easily lead to the Fourth Great Ninja War. All it takes is one little pawn to fall, and then everything just goes crazy, right? The whole structure falls down. So you could do that. You could fight alongside the Uchiha, and you could risk everybody dying, or a new war. Or you could work for us and do what we want you to do, which is slaughter your entire clan by yourself. And if you do that, I'll allow you to spare your brother. Itachi, of course, loved his brother. He loved Sasuke, even though Sasuke, his entire life growing up, was just he hated me because of the whole, just that one incident where, Itachi slaughtered both of Sasuke's parents and Itachi's parents right in front of him, and then he used the Tsukuyomi to put it on a constant loop in Sasuke's head for 7 hours or whatever, or a day, or however long it was. Just experience your parents' death over and over again for a while. Whichever. You might think that means that Itachi hates his brother, but it was an act of love. So Itachi loves Sasuke, and so he's like, okay, all right. And so what path he decided to take. He decided to take the path to eliminate his clan, because he decided that, yeah, if I assassinate my clan, that could prevent a world war, which is the thing that I want to avoid among all else. It's sort of like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It would still be the death of my entire family, but I guess Itachi rationalized it it is for the greater good, and Sasuke gets to survive. He'll hate me, but he will get to survive. So let's just go with that. So there's a little bit more to this story, though. Part of it involves Obito. Now, of course, Obito was the one that summoned the Nine Tails to begin with. At this point, Obito was also kind of skulking around the Leaf Village, trying to find an opening to attack again. Itachi found out he was snooping around, and so he meets him. Now, Itachi just assumes this is actually Madara at this point, because he identifies himself as Madara. He has the Sharingan. He's able to control the Nine Tails, so Itachi just assumes oh, Madara Uchiha's back from the grave. Okay, whatever. And so they make a deal together, and I was all right, how about we do this? How about we assassinate the clan together? You help me do this. And in exchange, you don't touch Sasuke, and you leave the village as a whole alone. So you never try to, like, destroy the village again or whatever. Once again, I don't really think, like, Itachi could take Madara or Obito's word for this, but he kind of just does, and he's like, all right, I won't touch the village, but we got to assassinate the clan, because Obito was essentially trying to expedite the turmoil between the clan and the village anyway. He was trying to initiate the coup d'etat faster, okay? And so Obito and Itachi are the ones that actually slaughtered the clan. Yes, it was Itachi was the one that actually killed his parents, and he did that with his own hand. And his parents, by the way, Fugaku was there, and he's just like, I see you've come for us, Itachi. And Itachi's like, yep. And he's like, I see what, side you've sided with. You decided to go with the Leaf Village. And, he's like, do not, and Itachi's crying, by the way. He's like crying his eyes out while this is happening. He's about to, end his parents' lives. And Fugaku has this line, which has always been very powerful to me. And the line is like, why are you crying, Itachi? Our pain will be over in an instant. Your pain is just starting. The turmoil, the regret, the guilt that you are going to feel after this night is going to be immense. It's going to burden you for the rest of your life. Like Fugaku's like, I feel pity for you, son. I don't feel pity for myself. And he even says, I don't feel betrayed for what you did. I still love you as my son. I still think that you are a very gentle and kind child. Your path might have differed from my path, but I still love you. And so Itachi, with tears streaming down his face, he's like, I love you too, Dad. He's like, oh, it's so sad. Okay, so that was one side of it with Obito and Itachi. The other side of it involves Shisui Uchiha. Shisui Uchiha. Okay. Oh my god, Shisui Uchiha is so damn cool! It's like, okay. Oh my god. Okay, you thought Itachi was cool. You thought he was the coolest Uchiha. Well, have you seen Shisui? I don't think you have. Shisui. It's Shisui. Shisui Uchiha, alright? So, I have never seen so many people go crazy over a character that barely appears in the manga. Yes, he has way more screen time in the anime. He's in a lot of the video games, so he has a lot more presence in the franchise that way. But in the manga, it took forever. He was like name dropped a few times, and then he was like shown in like one flashback with Itachi where he gives him his eye. But then all of a sudden, he's like, the whole fan base is like, Shisui's freaking incredible! Look at him! Look at him! It's like, he's so cool. He could teleport, and he could have the Susanoo, and it's green, and he could just do it with one eye because he's so cool. And he has this eye, the Kota Matsukami, and it could like do anything, and it's so cool. So yeah, that's Shisui Uchiha in a nutshell. That's what my research has yielded. They could have just screw Itachi. They could have done a whole sequel series just about Shisui. The fan base would have exploded, right? Why didn't he get a movie? Come on now. Just do another Naruto movie. Scrap the whole Boruto thing. No, we're doing Shisui now, okay? Alright, so, Shisui Uchiha, the character that was, like, mentioned, like, a few times in the manga, was Itachi's best friend. And it was the reason that he died, was the reason that, Itachi was able to awaken his Mangyekyo Sharingan, right? So Shisui has the power of the Koto Amatsukami, which is an ability, it's a super powerful genjutsu that you inflict on somebody, and then you basically give them, like, false memories. So it's kind of like Tsukuyomi, but it's even better than that. Basically, the way Itachi was going to use it, with the eye that I want to say Shisui from Bleach, Shisui gave him, was he programmed a code, or like an order, into the eye that was protect Konoha, or protect the village hidden in the leaves. And so the idea was he hid that in a crow, which he threw into Naruto's mouth, because Itachi has crows. How many crows? 2 crows? No, he has an entire murder, so to speak, of crows. But anyway, yeah, he throws that into Naruto, and the idea is, if Naruto ever fights Sasuke, which Itachi knew was probably going to happen, and he was right, then the crow would come out, use Kota Matsukami on Sasuke, and then that jutsu would imprint false memories into Sasuke, but they would be indistinguishable from actual events. It literally rewrites your memory. It's not just like an illusion, or like it's like, it just swaps out one memory for another. No, it's like perfect. It's perfect. It's seamless. You can rewrite somebody's entire memory, entire personality, their goals, ambitions. You can rewrite everything or anything with this jutsu, okay? So if Sasuke were to get hit by this, he would instantly just realize, like, Naruto, you're my best friend. We should protect the village together as ninja companions. And Naruto's like, yeah, yeah. And then they just walk off into the sunset together, like, to protect the village, right? Like, literally, this jutsu could have done that. It's very, very scary, okay? So, because it's so powerful, Danzo immediately got, like, hard as hell. He's like, oh, I want that so bad. And so he did. Danzo fights against, Shisui fights against Shisui, rips out one of his eyes because Shisui was actually going to use it on the Uchiha clan heads in order to stop the coup. Because Shisui and Itachi were sort of both child prodigies, except Shisui was even better because he was even cooler. Like, Itachi awoke the Sharingan at age 8, but Shisui did it at like age 6. Actually, he awoke the Mangyuko at age 6 as well. He was so awesome, right? He was so cool. So, Shisui meets with the elders and he's like, wait, I have my jutsu. Like, there's gonna be a coup d'etat like next week. I can use Koto Matsukami and I can make the Uchiha clan elders and Fugaku and everybody just assume that, like, oh, okay, we will not do a coup d'etat. Everything that the village does is perfect. We are fine. We are Uchiha. We are cool. And then that would have been the thing. And so Danzo is like, oh, I don't want you using that. Do you know all the cool things that I could do? I mean, the cool things you can do with this jutsu? Like, to waste it on just a coup d'etat or to stop a coup d'etat. And also, Danzo felt like even if you stop this coup d'etat, you could always have one later. So he's like, this is a waste of this ability. I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it for my own devices. So he rips out Shisui's eye. And then his other eye, he's like, okay, plans kind of changed at this point. I'm going to rip out this other eye, Itachi. I'm going to give it to you, and then you can use this to help protect the village, because my eyes are like the super powerful eyes. Like, I'm the greatest Uchiha ever, and I received, like, the greatest genjutsu ever in the entire series, and I just have that. But, I'm trusting it to you, Itachi, because you're the only character that can approach the coolness of my character. Okay, cool. I'm going to jump into this waterfall now. And then Shisui dies, and it's sad. But Itachi gets the Mangyuko out of it, so, and a cool eye that you can change anything pretty much, so that's cool, right? That's something. So, yeah, Danzo's kind of a bastard. We've already established that right there. But anyway, yeah, so the plan doesn't go 100% because, of course, Itachi had to end up using the Koto Matsukami on himself when he became a Edo Tensei. So he was even able to rewrite the Edo Tensei's command, right? And so it's like, protect the hidden leaf, and so that awoke Itachi from Kabuto's control, which allowed him free reign and, help out Sasuke fighting against Kabuto, okay? So it had to be wasted, but it's still a ridiculously powerful genjutsu. And I think it doesn't go, it's not like a one-shot deal. I think there's like just a ridiculously long recharge rate for the Koto Matsukami. So after it got used for Itachi, the crow's eyes went back to normal, and it's like, I don't think it could be used again for like 10 years or something like that. It's like literally like one of these every 10 years for how powerful this is, okay? So that's the part of this story that Shisui's involved in. I know, he's really cool. I'm sorry I'm not talking about him more, but that's what you get, alright? Also, there's a lot of other stuff that was involved in light novels. Itachi had a love interest. Did you know about her? Probably not if you just read the manga. I had no idea. Her name was Izumi. She was an Uchiha as well. I guess her dad was like from another clan and her mom married into that, and then the dad died in the Nine Tails attack, and so then they moved back in with the Uchiha, and so they were kind of like, they had sort of a thing going on there. And then I think it was actually Obito Madara that killed her during the attack on the police force during the clan massacre. While Itachi was slaughtering everybody in the residential district, Obito was the one that went to the police station there, and Izumi was there, and so she died. So, you can look more into her if you want, but whatever. She was Itachi's love interest, I suppose. Oh, yeah, and then there's also the thing that's like, okay, this really stretches the boundaries of what you can do with Tsukuyomi. Like, Tsukuyomi's already been explained as being a ridiculously powerful genjutsu, but the idea here is, I guess, Izumi's about to die, but Itachi kind of loves her or cares very much for her. So Itachi uses the Tsukuyomi on Izumi to make her think that she's lived like 70 years of life with Itachi. Like, holy crap, that's powerful, right? Like, literally, it's okay, Izumi, you're gonna die here, but I can use my powers to make you think that we've lived a happy life for 70 years. So here you go. So I'm gonna do that for you. When it comes to my brother, I'm just gonna do the murder marathon over and over again. But for you, I'm gonna give 70 years of happiness. So it's like, she's like, oh, what? And is like, she's living the perfect life, and Itachi proposes to her, and they have kids, and the kids grow up, and then she's a grandma, and then she's there, and she's dying, but then Itachi's by her side. He's like, thank you, Itachi, for a wonderful life. It's also basically the same thing that happened in that one Doctor Who episode, right? The Family of Blood. Same basic gist here. So yeah, that's what happens to Izumi, in case you were curious about her, which maybe like a few of you were. Okay, anyway. But yeah, so that's the essential idea there. There's a couple of other things about Itachi's past, but it's not like super, like, basically they go into explain like everything. Like, how did Itachi originally awaken his Sharingan? Like his just base Sharingan. There's a story about that. You know, Itachi hanging out with his brother Sasuke when they were growing up. There's some extra stuff about that. His relationship with his father, Fugaku. There's some extra stuff there. So you can look into all that stuff there. Okay. So, you know, Itachi, I also feel like the idea there, because he was such a gentle guy, he felt so much regret over what happened with his clan. You also get the impression that he was raising Sasuke up in a sea of hatred and revenge, so eventually Sasuke would get strong enough to kill him. So Itachi's like, this is going to be my penance for what I did. My brother is I'm going to foster his hatred, and then he's going to grow up, and then he's going to be the one to end my existence. That's the way that I want this to end, because of the life that I've lived, and I've been manipulated, and I've been all these horrible ultimatums I've been given throughout my entire life. That's the way I want to go out. If I'm going to go out, it's going to be the way I slaughtered my whole clan, well, my clan, the sole survivor, is going to slaughter me, basically. You get that impression that's what Itachi really wanted, right? And so that does sort of eventually happen, but it was also because of Itachi and his illness and everything. As for his relationship with the Akatsuki, I believe after that event, Obito was like, hey, we slaughtered your clan, guess you can't really stay in the village anymore, but I have this cool organization, and we got these cloaks and everything you can wear, and we got these neat rings. You know, you want this ring? And it's like, I know you slaughtered your whole village, but you get a cloak and you get a ring. There you go. Itachi's like, I guess. I mean, like, what else really is there for me to do here, you know? Like, you're like 13 years old, you slaughtered your entire clan. I mean, like, at that point, it's like, all right, fine, I'll join your little club. I don't care, let's just go. All right, and so he does that, of course. He joins the Akatsuki. He was partnered with Juzo for a little while. Do you know who Juzo is? You guys, the people that know who Juzo is, they know who Juzo is. Juzo was a very integral character to this story. There's one filler episode I remember watching where they recruit Hidan for the first time, and it's Conan, Kakuzu, and Itachi that are sent to recruit Hidan, who's this mass murderer that's going around just like slaughtering people for the sake of Jashin and whatever. And Hidan runs into him, and he originally thinks they're part of a band. And it's so funny because Hidan is just like, all right, Kakuzu, you know, you're the bass guitar, the woman, Conan, you know, she's the vocals and keyboard. And then, oh, the emo guy is definitely doing the vocals. Sorry. It's just like he's looking at Itachi like they're definitely a band. And Kakuzu's like, we're nothing like that. And then so that's funny there, right? Itachi was the one that went up against Deidara, and he used his Sharingan to manipulate Deidara to make him think that he won. And then that began Deidara's grudge against Itachi. Like, I'm gonna make a special mechanical eye that can negate the effects of the Sharingan. And Itachi's like, okay, you have fun with that. Then there was Orochimaru's whole thing where he's like, Itachi, I need your body. It's the perfect body. And Itachi's like, no, and then basically kicks the shit out of Orochimaru, no problem. God, he was so cool. Wasn't he? Wasn't he awesome? He was really neat. You know, Itachi was nice. Yeah, I'd like to see him back again. He would have been all right. He would have been okay if he survived. Like, you could have just had the last scene where it's just like, all right, he's a zombie, but he's so cool. Like, he's able to just turn off the zombie powers and he's reborn. That's what they should have used the Rinne revival jutsu on, right? If there was ever going to be any other sort of, like, bullshit, like, well, we know we already used the Rinne revival jutsu, but we can use it again now on Itachi. There we go. Let's see, what else here? Okay, so he comes back as a zombie. He fights against Naruto and B very briefly, and then the Kota Matsukami happens. He's like, all right, it's cool seeing you, Naruto. You'll probably have to fight against Sasuke again, but it's okay. I'm gonna go hang out with him. I'm gonna go see him and see what's up and try to change his mind on things. Because basically Sasuke has arrived at a point now where it's like, okay, it's not Itachi that I need to go after, it's the entire ninja world. Because, you know, Sasuke started going up the ladder, like, okay, the reason Itachi slaughtered his entire clan was because, you know, Danzo told him, because of Anbu and everything like that. And it's like, and the reason they did that was because the Uchiha were about to do a coup d'etat. And the reason because of that was because tensions between the village and the Uchiha were, you know, at an all-time high. And the reason that, you know, Itachi didn't want to, you know, let them fight against the village was because that might start another world war. And so the reason it might start another world war is because the ninja village system is broken and the Hokages and everything. And the reason that happens is because the whole damn system is broken. And so Sasuke basically arrived at the conclusion that I gotta destroy all the villages, wipe out the Hokage, all the Kage, not just the Hokage. All the Kage gotta die. Everything has to happen. I'm just gonna start all over from the ashes. And during Sasuke's final battle with Naruto at the Valley of the End, at the very end of the series, he has a line of dialogue that's basically like, I'm gonna accept, just like Itachi accepted all of the darkness and hatred and everything onto himself, I'm gonna accept all that stuff onto myself too. So it's sort of like, Sasuke doesn't really have a plan from what I'm really interpreting this as. He's basically just like, you know, I'm gonna wipe out the village system. I'm gonna wipe out all of the Kage. I don't know how many people have to die in Sasuke's world, probably quite a few in order to make this work. I'm gonna use, you know, basically, you know what honestly he arrives at? He arrives at a might makes right kind of philosophy. Where he's like, because at this point, I think Naruto even said, like, people aren't gonna go along with this. And Sasuke's like, it doesn't matter. I have freaking sage powers now. I have access to all of the tailed beasts. It doesn't matter if they don't want this to happen. I have all the power to make it happen, Naruto. And the only person that rivals me in terms of that power is you, who has the other half of the sage power. That's why I need to fight you, kill you here, and then I will be the one that, it's okay, because I'll wipe out the whole system, and probably a lot of people are gonna die, but it's alright, because I'll take on all of the negative aspects of this world onto myself, so then everything can be rebuilt from the ashes, and everything will be hunky-dory. It's a very ambiguous, like, goal that Sasuke has. You also have to keep in mind he's like 16, 17 years old when he comes up with this, so I guess it fits. But anyway, the fight happens. Naruto and Sasuke clash. Final battle of the series. Very epic. They both lose an arm in the process, and they're like, alright, I guess I won't do it. And Sasuke is like, I give up. And Naruto's like, yeah! End of series. Okay. We're best friends now. Kind of. Sort of. Alright. They did have a really cool fight scene in Boruto. That was the scene. You know which one I'm talking about. Okay. So that was the road that Sasuke was on. So Itachi's like, alright, the thing that he uses as a parallel to this is when he meets him as a zombie is like, I was trying to set up a guidepost for you. Like, you know, Itachi was like, all right, I set up hatred for me and to take it on to me, and then you killed me. What you were supposed to do was you were supposed to protect the village from the people that were actually trying to harm it and everything. And Itachi's like, I set up a guidepost. I set up a sign. You were supposed to go down this road. You went in the opposite fucking direction. And so they have a talk there. They fight against Kabuto. That's, of course, where Itachi utilizes the Izanami, which is the hard counter to the Izanagi technique on Kabuto and everything. And right before he dies, he uses Tsukuyomi, I'm guessing, or some type of genjutsu, to basically take all of his memories and experiences and give them over to Sasuke, so Sasuke can properly understand everything that happened. And Itachi was like, I'm sorry, Sasuke, that I kept you at arm's length, that I never trusted you with this. I took this all onto myself. You know, if there's one thing that you really have to learn about this, and Naruto kind of says the same thing, and it's sort of a very... It's a very common anime trope, but it basically boils down to the whole concept of you can't do everything on your own, you can't shoulder all the burdens onto yourself, you need to have people to help you and guide you along the way. And I'm sorry I couldn't be the big brother for you, and I'm sorry I couldn't be that person. It doesn't really mean much now because the damage is already done, our clan is already all gone, but he gives Sasuke all of his memories, so he knows what happens with Danzo and Shisui and Izumi, I guess, and he learns all this information and why he did what he did with the village. But that still doesn't deter Sasuke. He wakes Orochimaru back up. They go and visit the 4 Hokage previous, and they talk to them, and Sasuke still arrives at the conclusion of, like, yeah, I need to use just, oh, okay, so basically what I've arrived at is just use the power of the tailed beast to reshape the world the way I think it should be. Okay, we'll go with that. And so that's what Sasuke arrives at. What's his goal now? I really don't, I couldn't tell you. As somebody that watches Boruto more than me would tell you, like, what's Sasuke's goal right now. I know he's kind of just, like, a wanderer. You know, he kind of just travels around the world, I guess, like Batman, like a vigilante, like, you know, solving problems. Every now and then he comes back to the village and then leaves to see his daughter and Sakura, who's his wife, you know. He lost an eye, I know that, you know, but... By the way, did he really lose an eye? That was kind of like, yeah, Boruto possessed just stabs him. That's all it takes to get rid of the Rinnegan Sharingan. It's like this immensely powerful Daojutsu that comes from the Sage of Six Paths himself. All it takes is a sharp knife, and it's like, all right, it's gone. And it's gone. So is it still gone, or did he get it back? I don't know. But yeah, that's Itachi. How long was this video? 46 minutes. I probably have to cut some stuff out there, but man, I thought it was going to be longer than that. I mean, I guess we can go over some of his jutsu, but we kind of already went through a lot of that stuff, you know? Like, most of Itachi's jutsu, like I said, was just to display all the cool shit you can do with Sharingan. Like, he had the fireball jutsu, he had, like, water-style jutsus, he had a bunch of genjutsu, like that freaky genjutsu he used on Naruto to make him look like half Sasuke and half Naruto, and he's like, ah! You know, like, that was a freaky one. He has the crow powers, he has all the crow clones that he can make, you know, and that's a cool thing. But other than that, everything he has is either Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, or Susanoo, or techniques that are derived from all that stuff, right? Let's see, there was the meme, there was the Itachi choking Sasuke meme that was a hit a little while back, so that was a thing, that was pretty funny there. But yeah, I mean, like, Itachi, he is a very sad, tragic story, because it started so pure of just, like, being a little kid witnessing warfare, and he's like, I'm gonna grow up, and I'm going to get strong, and I'm going to be a leader, and I'm going to make sure this never happens again. And it literally leads to him slaughtering his entire clan, which eventually leads to Sasuke getting in touch with Orochimaru, which eventually, and the Akatsuki do all their crazy shit with the tail beasts, which eventually leads to, you know, the World War that Itachi wanted to avoid at all costs anyway. A lot of people died there. And then, even then, it was Naruto that saved the day, I guess, stopped Sasuke from his warpath and everything. But at the end of the day, you know, whatever, it happened, okay? And of course, Itachi was just one of the puppets at the very bottom of the rung of this massive ladder of puppets that is just like Itachi controlled by, you know, the Pain and the Akatsuki, and then Obito, and then Madara, and then Black Zetsu, and then Kaguya, and like it just keeps going up. So Itachi was like level 7 with this shit, so it's like you can't really blame him for anything. Could he have handled the situation maybe a little bit better? Yeah, I mean, like, all the weird stuff you can do with Tsukuyomi and the Sharingan, would it have been possible for perhaps Itachi to give him an illusion or something that's programmed to activate under certain circumstances? So if Sasuke ever started to go down this path of, like, revenge and murder, all of a sudden this would awaken a jutsu inside of him that Itachi put in, like, where it's like, hey, little brother, just letting you know this is the real reason I did everything, and just, like, don't kill everyone, this is the reason. And then Sasuke's like, oh, I get it. I don't know, maybe, because you might say, like, even if Itachi told Sasuke everything, like if he used a genjutsu, like the same thing he did with Izumi, like right after he murdered his parents, he looked at Sasuke and Sasuke's like, brother, why? And he's like, well, hold on a second, let me use we don't have a lot of time left, let me just use genjutsu to tell you the whole thing. Whoop. And it's like, hi there, Sasuke, how are you doing? Your big brother Itachi here. So this is the reason I did all this. This is the reason I had to kill everybody. And Sasuke's like, oh, so it was the village's fault. I'm gonna take revenge on the village. Like, no, Sasuke, don't take revenge on the village. Well, who am I gonna take revenge on, Itachi? You killed everybody. I can't take revenge on you. I can't take revenge on the village. I'm a shonen protagonist, brother. I need to take revenge on someone. You know, and Itachi's like, how about you just, like, try to make the world a better place? Oh, I'll take revenge on the world. No, not that. And just, like, I guess there's no way that this could have happened, right? Like, Itachi, no matter what he did, Sasuke was probably going to go down this route anyway from the way that it's portrayed in the series. You know, I don't think there's any real reality unless it's like the infinite Tsukuyomi reality where Sasuke is like, okay, I'm just gonna try to be a good ninja and try to help the world as much as I can. Naruto, we're best friends. Okay, great. Here, Sakura, let's all go. Kakashi, let's all go and help out the world as much as we can. I'm like a different person now. I'm not gonna let the death of my clan bring me down into a path of revenge and evil. Let's do it. You know, I don't see any scenario in the entire story where even in the Infinite Tsukuyomi, I don't think that could have happened. So, you know. But, you know what? Itachi, like I said, when I first watched Naruto back when I was a teenager, he was a wicked cool character. I still think he's a wicked cool character. So anyway, I've been blabbing on for a while now. I don't know if any of this made sense. I don't know if you learned anything new, but, yeah, I had to do the Itachi video at some point, and I'm glad I finally got to doing it. Will I continue the Akatsuki series with Orochimaru? Or Sasuke, because he was also a part with it. Juzo, gotta do Juzo's video at some point, of course. Maybe, maybe not. But at least when it comes to all of the core members of the Akatsuki that appear in the actual story and, like, the present Naruto's, like, fighting them and everything, I've done that. So we're good on that front. Hope you enjoyed the video, everybody. This will be Tekking101 and Itachi's Crow signing out. You won't remember any of this, though, because Barry will perform Tsukuyomi on you in about 5, 4... Have a good one, everybody. 2, 1... Okay, and that concludes my video, everybody, on how Boa Hancock is most likely going to die at the end of this arc, and how Kobe is actually going to receive the Love powers, and then Kobe and Luffy will finally be able to get together. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Tekking101 and Barry signing out. Love you all. Have a good night.